Hello and welcome into a special edition of LMU Community TV News. I'm Ashley Collingsworth. Thank you for joining us. Today we are going to be covering the referendum that is on the election ballot covering the bond notification for the expansion of the jail. First, you're going to hear from Sheriff David Ray, and second, you'll be hearing from Joe Brooks. We hope that this show will inform you on the proper way to vote. And without further ado, here is Sheriff David Ray.
Okay, the people of Claiborne County need to be reminded that this next election, there is a referendum concerning our jail, whether or not it be financed by a bond issue that the county court has passed and agreed upon. And it got on the ballot by a few people that didn't like what the county court did and got enough signatures to put it on a ballot for the people in Claiborne County to vote on. I'll give you a little history about our county jail. It was built in 2004 and we went in there in 2006, in fact June 29, 2006. We went in there with about 34 to 35 prisoners, and it took a year and a half to get our jail certified. In order to get a jail certified, there's hundreds of different requirements that we have to go through. That is state and federal standards to operate a jail, from medical issues to food issues to security issues, and I could just keep naming and naming. It took the year and a half, as I said, to have a certified jail, and I immediately had the county to enter into an agreement or a contract, whichever you would call it, with the federal government to house 30 prisoners. In the last 14 years, in the last 8.5 years, those prisoners, the 30 federal prisoners and the state prisoners that has committed felony cases here in our county, has brought the taxpayers in $14 million as of June 30th this year. Now, had we not had that money coming in and being generated by this jail and the inmates that we cared for through the federal government and the state corrections institute, we would not be able to balance the budget. So that's a reason you haven't had a tax increase in the last 10 years since I've been sheriff. The county court has used that money for other services besides just operating the jail or the roads, schools. They have other means of money that operates for them. Now, this issue came up 4 years ago. I went to the county court in 2012, reminded them of the overcrowdedness. That is the problem with our jail in Claiborne County. Several jails in East Tennessee especially has been overcrowded for the last 6 to 8 years, and there's been more justice centers and jails built in East Tennessee in the last 6 to 8 years than in the history of time. It is the county's responsibility, the county court's responsibility, to build a jail and maintain a jail and keep it up to where the county's not liable. And that falls under the 8th Amendment of the Constitution, where there is a explanation for being deliberate indifference and to have a safe place to house prisoners. When we get overcrowded, we get lawsuits. That's a liability. This whole issue is about overcrowdedness and a liability to our county. That's the reason the jail that we are having and using today was built, and we entered in 2006 is through a court order, ordering the county court to build this jail. Now, there's different reasons that the jail is overcrowded. Number one, there are mandatory sentences on certain crimes. Deadbeat dads go to jail. Okay? Domestic violence people go to jail. Assaults usually end up in jail. Mandatory on several of our crimes that are misdemeanors that we keep in jail. The misdemeanors does not pay this county one dime. So that's the reason you have to have a jail to hold women and men separately in every county in the state of Tennessee. And the state constitution demands that the county provide that service to every citizen to protect and take care of their loved ones. Now, the jail has been approved by the county court. There's a jail committee that was appointed 2 years ago, and we've met every month to come to the point of the answer to the overcrowdedness, and that is build onto our jail. A lot of people say, get rid of your prisoners, the federal prisoners. Okay, if we did, that would only give us 30 vacancies. Today, we have 255 people in jail. If we got rid of the 30 prisoners, that would only give us a small area. We'd still be overcrowded, but we would lose $660,000 for housing those 30 prisoners. Now, the plan that I presented to the committee was a plan that's been accepted by the control board that controls jails and the sheriff's jails in Tennessee, and that's called Tennessee Corrections Institute. They inspect jails, make recommendations, and help the sheriffs across the state, and they've been working with us now for over 2 years. They've accepted this plan 2 years ago when we came up with it, as long as we were showing measurable progress. They would not decertify Claiborne County Jail. Now, I want to make something clear. The Claiborne County Jail is not David Ray's jail. It is the people's jail. And the county court is elected by the people, and they are totally responsible for the operations. I am the custodian and the steward of the Claiborne County Jail. I think we've done an excellent job because we haven't had a liability lawsuit filed against us so far, because we've done everything we can to go in the right direction with this plan that satisfies the Tennessee Corrections Institute Control Board. Now, that board is made up of professional people such as the Commissioner of Corrections, which is TDOC, professors from different universities, lawyers, sheriffs, all very, very intelligent people. And there's about 20 people on that board, and I've having to be meeting with them, and have been meeting with them for the last 2 years. And I just recently went down in June, told them what had happened with respect to this referendum getting on a ballot for August. They gave me a waiver until after this election, and I'm to report back to the control board September 2, I think it is, 1st of September. Tell them what the county is going to do. Now, that decision will be made up. They don't want to change any plan that we've already initiated and voted on, and county court has let a contract with the contractors and the engineers. All that's done, worked out, and they've been paid for. If there is a new plan of action, the control board would have to approve that. But this is what they told me. This is so important. If you come back September 1 and there is not a solution that you've had and this plan of action is not carried out, we will decertify your jail. That means that the money that we've been generating, and that's over $2 million this past year, $14 million in the last 8.5 years, will cost the people of this county a tax increase. Or you tell me where that money's coming from. It has been made, if you will. It has been generated, if you will, and turned into the trustee's office, and the county court has used it on various things. That's the reason you haven't had a tax increase. So the thing about this is there's no other answer, or there hasn't been one person come to this meeting that we've had each month with an answer to this problem, except get rid of your state and federal prisoners. Well, I could remind you, if you've looked in the news lately and talked or seen anybody out of Blount County just lost over 100 prisoners they come and got. I had dinner with Barone today and talked to Sheriff Barone, and they're going to lose about $6 million of revenue when they're getting all of theirs taken away. Now, I asked, where are they taking them? And he said he didn't know, but I know that the state of Tennessee likes to have state jail or county jails under a contract. I could enter a contract with them, same as I've entered a contract or an agreement with the federal government to hold 30 federal prisoners. But the answer to this whole problem is certainly this, it is simple. I can take 90 federal prisoners. Okay, I told you what 30 would bring. That's $660,000. So if you multiply that by 3, you almost got $2 million there. And you're still going to have 200, or not 200, but you're going to have around 180, 190 more beds. But I can pay for that with 30 federal prisoners in 8 years, that with no expense to the taxpayers of this county. Now, I have said from the beginning, I'm against any project to add on to the jail if it costs the taxpayers one dime. I am against it. If the county court can't take the revenue from 90 federal prisoners and pay for this upcoming jail that needs to be built, then something's wrong. You can take $2 million. The project was 12.2, I think, the last bid, taking care of everything. You could get by with about $1.5 million and 8 years have that thing paid off and have $500,000 to operate on from those 90. Now, at the same time, we're going to be taking in this same money from the state prisoners because we'll have room. But if they come and get these prisoners, the county court is right now presently trying to come up with balance in the budget. There is no way under the sun that the Claiborne County court can balance a budget without looking into that money that's coming from the sheriff's jail. Now, I'm against this project if it costs the taxpayers a dime. The plan I have will work. I have shown you already that I've turned in $14 million in 8.5 years with only 30 federal prisoners, and those that have committed crimes here in Claiborne County that would have went on to the Department of Corrections if there was a place. It's not me that decides who goes to the penitentiary. It is the Tennessee Department of Corrections, TDOC. The very minute that the judge signs an order, TDOC them, we begin to get $38 a day for housing them. The federal government's giving me $48 a day. I can feed prisoners for $5.75 a day. Now, I want to make something clear. The federal government pays for all medical expenses. The state of Tennessee, with their state prisoners that have committed crimes here in Claiborne County, we do not house state prisoners from other counties. The federal prisoners that we're housing are people that are coming to and from federal court. We also have an agreement or contract to transport those prisoners who are going to federal court in Greenville, Tennessee, or Knoxville. They pay us $30 an hour plus 52 cents a mile. That's part of that $14 million that I was referring to with our federal government contract. So I beg upon you, if you haven't voted, to please look at this closely. Don't be led by people telling you lies. The petition that was circulating earlier that got this on a referendum, the people were lied to several times. I'm not saying all of them were, but there's enough people have come to me saying they want their name off of the petition, that they would have even thought about filing a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against those that misrepresented what that referendum or the petition was to get the referendum on the ballot. So if you haven't voted, please vote yes. Your taxes will not increase with the plan that I have. If it doesn't go through, I can assure you that every person in Claiborne County that is a property owner can expect their taxes to be raised considerably. I thank you very much, and I'll continue to do the work that I've been elected to do so, providing the best law enforcement this county has ever had, and I thank you very much.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science. After that, I'm going to get my law degree. Then I'm going to come back to Detroit, boost the economy, become the mayor or something, try to make the situation better for other people. I feel like I owe it to the city. I'm determined. It's going to happen. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
And now here is Joe Brooks to explain his side of the jail referendum that is on the August 4th election ballot.
Hello, my name is Joe Brooks. As most of you probably know, I have been the outspoken opponent of the proposed jail expansion in Claiborne County. I'd like to talk to you for a little bit today, or have been asked to talk to you a little bit today, on why I'm against the proposed jail expansion. In Claiborne County, we were given very little notice of the jail expansion or the need thereof. That came to the citizens of Claiborne County via county court on January 2015, last year. During that time, there was little opportunity to look into information, but we tried several times to go and find information. Some of the information that we'd found about the jail was it necessary to have the expansion at all? We were told by elected officials, Sheriff David Ray, members of the Sheriff's Department, Wayne Lee, several county commissioners, that it was the only opportunity that we had to reduce or to deal with the problem of overcrowdedness was to expand the jail. That expansion, to be sure, is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 470 beds. That's at a price tag of $12.2 million, and that'll come out of taxpayer-generated revenue from the citizens of Claiborne County. Now, when we looked into that further, we saw that there are several things on the books, laws on the books, that would allow counties to not be overcrowded. One of those is Tennessee Code that states once an individual has been sentenced on a felony charge in the state of Tennessee, the state has 14 days to come and remove said prisoner, felon, out of the county jail within 14 days, period. And let's be clear about that. This is not something that we're talking about and making up. This has actually came out in the form of Attorney General's opinion, and that's 1621 that just came down last year, and there were two questions that was asked. And those questions basically summed up what I told you in the law. And they were, do they have an obligation, counties have an obligation to house these inmates? No. Does the state have a requirement to pick those inmates up within the 14-day period? Yes. Now, there is an exception to that rule, and that exception is if the county court has made an agreement with the state of Tennessee, and that would be through a contract, to house state felons in the county jails, they can do so, and that is at a cost of $37 a day. Now, what's odd in Claiborne County's case is that your county commission has never taken the time to do that, and this is a loosely held agreement between the Sheriff's Department and the state of Tennessee. Now, if we look at following the law, which good Sheriff David Ray would like to do, what we're seeing here is that Claiborne County is actually breaking the law by housing state prisoners for $37 a day, since it's never gone through the process that it should and been approved in the county commission. Now, we look further into that and we see that we find that Claiborne County Correctional Partnership, or the Claiborne Partnership, CCP, or the jail committee, was formed about 4 years ago, and they've had meetings. I won't call these secret meetings, but there's a little public notice given to those, and then the citizens of Claiborne County, your average citizens, found out about that again in January 15, and we've been trying to play catch up ever since. Now, that partnership, the correctional partnership, has been working with an organization called Tennessee Corrections Institute. And Tennessee Corrections Institute is basically in place to ensure that standards are met in county prisons or county jails in all 95 counties. They can't regulate, they can't mandate, there's no statutory authority for TCI to tell any jail in Claiborne County what it should or should not do. They basically check to see that things are on par, there's no hazards, everything is in good working condition, and that's it, period. Now, as far as the overcrowding issue in the Claiborne County Jail goes, with its involvement with TCI, TCI has never looked at, or that we can find looking back through minutes, 4.5 years worth of minutes of these jail committee meetings, of any effort that's ever been made to reduce that number of prisoners in Claiborne County Jail, except for getting the words, "We've tried to call, and nobody has come to pick them up. Now, there are 95 counties in the state of Tennessee, and we've been given numbers that 9,000 prisoners are waiting space in prison beds. Now, granted, this is a big problem for the state of Tennessee and all 95 counties as well, especially Claiborne. Now, we look at that from a point of view on the state. We've called legislators, talked to legislators in the state. We've actually reached out to the governor's office, gotten very little but no comment, and directed back to county court here in Claiborne County. What's happening is the state of Tennessee is trying to get out of the prison business. There is a Trousdale Jail is now a private entity in Middle Tennessee, and that entity is going to be doing the prison services in Tennessee moving forward. That's coming at a cost of $70 to $90 per day for those folks, and they bear the brunt of housing, but hiring all the employees, guards to do that. They also are responsible for all medical expenses to do that, etc. Now, on the losing side of everything that we've got, at $37 a day for state inmates, your county is responsible for paying all the medical costs associated with that, any dental, any problems that that inmate may have. Now, on the Fed side, which they claim is making money at $47 a day, that rate is set by the federal government, and that number is determined by the federal government of the actual cost of what it takes to house a prisoner in the Claiborne County Jail. Now, when we look at the costs associated with housing those prisoners, we see that our budget money for the jail in this fiscal year coming up is $2.8 million. And let's be sure that that's a 210-bed facility. That $2.8 million is going to be budgeted to house local prisoners in Claiborne County, and those are misdemeanors. They use the term misdemeanors as a unimportant word because they'd make no money for the county. And let's be sure, that money that's budgeted is for those misdemeanors, period. Now, they've tossed out numbers that they've made money with the jail. And to make money, you have to actually be recouping money and then some to make money. Now, since this jail's opened in 2006, you can go to the trustee's office. This is a verified number. They have made about $12.3 million, right at $13 million over the course of 10 years. Now, at that same time, during the same 10-year period, your tax dollars, including the wheel tax that's been set in place to actually fund the original jail that's there now, not the expansion we're talking about, plus your property tax dollars to fund the workhouse, the jail in Claiborne County, comes to a little more than $34 million. Now, for them to say that they're making money by bringing in a revenue of around $12, $13 million in that same time period is incorrect. They are recouping barely a third of the money that they are spending to house state and federal prisoners in the county, and still responsible for the medical and dental for those folks. So, why am I against the jail expansion? I'm against the jail expansion because I am trying to stop the lies that we are being told in Claiborne County. Now, one of those lies is the state won't come pick them up. Now, most of you may or may not understand what's happening in the state as some of the things I've told you, and I'm sorry I'm running through a lot of information here all over the place. Blount County was in the similar process that Claiborne County was in. They were looking at doing a $65 million jail expansion to house 1,200 prisoners in Blount County. Now, why I'm bringing this up is because to debunk the lie that we're being told now that they can't pick them up. One county commissioner in Blount County actually called TDOC and requested those prisoners to be picked up. As of last Friday, all 99 sentenced prisoners, state felons in the state of Tennessee that were being housed in Blount County's jail have now been removed to the state penitentiary system. Now, if it's so easy for Blount County to remove 99 state sentenced felons, I'm finding it hard to believe why in Claiborne County that we can't reduce our number down to a manageable number that will get us to the 85%, 80% rule, which is state's recommendations that you are full at 80%. You're overcrowded at 100%. You're really overcrowded once you exceed the 100%. Now, this is important to understand that it's not an end-all game. and some of the fear tactics that's being used for the pro-jail folks are your property taxes are going to go up if you don't vote yes. This is another lie. It's very misleading. Your budget this year alone, without the jail, is going to be set at a little under $12 million. That's $11,975,000. Expenditures, your revenue coming in is going to be a little more than $9 million. You're not meeting the ends. Now, that number doesn't include the money that's going to be allocated or brought in from housing state and federal prisoners. And if that number, as good Sheriff David Ray says, is $2 million annually, you're still going to have a $600,000, $700,000 deficit that's going to be coming up on property tax. So now be sure. You're going to have a property tax increase in Claiborne County this year alone to cover that cost, whether you have the jail, if you don't have the jail. Now, when you go to the booth and you vote on the referendum and you see that you've got a choice on there to make and it's the last question on the ballot, it's a yes or no question. A lot of folks say they're confused by the question. It's too wordy by the question. What you need to understand in that question are the first sentence that you read and the last sentence you read before checking yes or no. That first sentence basically is asking the citizens of Claiborne County, are you in favor of borrowing $12.2 million? The last sentence of that says, this amount will be payable by ad valorem unlimited property taxes. Yes or no? I'm asking you today to vote no for the very reasons I've said. One, we have a false sense of overcrowdedness because we're housing state and federal prisoners that we don't need to. Two, that we're making no money on housing state and federal prisoners in the jail at $37 a day for states, $47 for federals, when it's costing us on average $50 to $60 a day to house those prisoners in our jail. Three, other counties have gone through the same thing that we've gone through, specifically Blount County, and Blount County has rectified their problem by having the state come in, someone from the legal body in the county, ask the state to come in and get those individuals. Those individuals have now been picked up. Four, it's the right thing to do for Claiborne County to vote no on the jail expansion bond issue, because we should not be in the business of making money off the backs of folks who have found themselves in any kind of unfortunate incident that would allow themselves to be placed in jail for any amount of time. It's a bad business to be in, ethically and fiscally for monetary reasons. So again, I'm here today to ask you to vote no on the proposed jail expansion to help us to get the truth out and to stop the lies. So please join me by going to the booth during early voting, which goes until July the 30th. And then on August the 4th, the election day, by going out and casting a vote no for the proposed jail expansion. And I thank you very much for your time.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Thank you for joining us again. We hope that this special edition of LMU Community TV News has informed you enough to make a well-informed decision when you go vote at the election on August 4th. That is next Thursday. So be sure that you go out and cast your vote. For everyone here at LMU Community TV News, I'm Ashley Collingsworth. We'll see you next week.